My next guest is Derek Cantrell. He is a principal of Alleghany High School in Western Virginia, and he has recently released a book called Better Together, which shares a story of bringing two longtime rival high schools together to unify the community and build one school culture. It also highlights many of the leadership lessons he learned along the way. Welcome to the podcast, Derek.
Awesome. Definitely appreciate the opportunity to be on the podcast and share some of our journey through the school consolidation.
Well, we'll start off with a question I ask everyone. Tell me about a time you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
And I think I'm going to go back to the first day coming out of COVID. So fall 2020, coming back first day out of school there. And we have a vote that is going to happen the first day after school from our school board, and they vote to consolidate schools, which means closing our division and the end of
Mhm.
our high school at that time. So, it's kind of that part where, staff and students in the community are devastated, and you have to go through the grieving process and pick yourself back up and figure out a way to continue on and finish out the journey of Covington High School, but then in the meantime also preparing for the consolidation piece and putting our best foot forward so that we can be successful and we can be better together, like the book part. But it was definitely a little bit of a culture shock that evening, because it's something in our community that had been talked about for about 40 years with consolidation. Had been
Mhm.
times that have been put up for a vote and voted down. And in this time, it was unique. Both school boards voted to consolidate in both
Mhm.
local governments. So it didn't go up for a community vote.
Mhm.
But, we're currently at this time finishing year three of our consolidated high school, year four of our divisions. So
Mhm.
it's been a great journey, and getting to where we are today, we're definitely better for kids with opportunities that there's more courses, more AP, dual enrollment opportunities for them. We've been quite successful athletically with this, and definitely bringing our two staffs together. It's been good for them to learn and grow as well.
Well, that leads us to my second question, which is about your book, Better Together. So, talk about kind of the what led, how you merged the two schools, all the planning that took place. You told me a little bit in the pre-chat about the traditions, how you made people feel valued, both students, community, and staff, and really how you put people and culture first.
Yeah, the book idea came just kind of going through the process, and we started doing some presentations and some podcasts and things, and thought it would
Mm-hmm.
be a good idea to kind of share the story of what we did on the forefront intentionally with communication and valuing people, and in some of the different systems that we put in place to continue to recognize, acknowledge, and extend the good things that are happening in our building culture wise, and just
Mm-hmm.
uplift people. So, when it was unique, the first year that we consolidated, the high schools didn't consolidate till year two of the
Okay.
division. So we had a year in that planning stage. I was hired in October before the fall of the start of the school year. I think we started in September the next year, just because of the
Mm-hmm.
logistical things of moving furniture, getting classrooms set up, painting the building different school colors, just so much stuff that went in. We were actually taking stuff from three different buildings to put
Mm-hmm.
into one. So it was unique with that. And Covington High School is now our middle school. Alleghany High School, which was here before where Alleghany, the Mountaineers went, is where the Covington High School students came. So it
Okay.
wasn't a new school opening. They went to the other high school. And we did a lot of things to make sure that when people walked in day one, it felt different. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like the Alleghany Cougars as they came in. On the forefront, we really thought it was important to over communicate to make sure that people knew what was happening along the way, whether it be students, staff, community, families. We created a culture and communication roadmap that
Okay.
made sure that we checked off, not necessarily checked off, but make sure we hit the right markers along the way, whether it be having that parent and student advisory meeting, asking them what they're excited about, what they're concerned about, and then be able to answer those before we get to the opening of school.
Hmm.
We met with staff. We asked staff about teaching interest to help with the master schedule so that they had involvement with that. We did a twice a month memo that we sent out, just like what we were doing with hiring coaches, even stuff like the lockers were painted this past week. They look excellent. Here's a
Hmm.
picture to show that off as well. And we were pretty useful of Facebook and Twitter and that stuff. And if we put a logo up, little things, put it out on Facebook. Hey, look at our logo on our front door, and just continue to build that excitement. And we made sure to get families into the building and kids into the building in the spring and summer, just to build relationships and come and do tours and things that way. And some little things that came along from some of the meetings, like our students at Covington wanted to come down and have like a family night where they could tour the building in the spring before the next year, and just ways to get the comfort level there.
Talk to me a little bit about the history of the two schools that merged, how long they've been around. And you said at the beginning they were rivals. So
Yeah.
how far did that go back?
Okay. Covington High School was built in 1939,
Hmm.
in Alleghany in 1963. So it was always, there was a Brackman Cup, a big trophy that they had for football games. So the whole community, when we had a Friday night for football, was there. It was the big game of the year. If you won that game, it kind of carried that momentum. It meant a
Hmm.
little bit more when you beat Alleghany, or Covington beat Alleghany, or Alleghany beat Covington. It kind of made that
Hmm.
part there. So with that time frame, just so much history, traditions, and pride from both communities. So that was definitely something that we had to be intentional about with the consolidation piece. So a couple of things we did to honor those, because I think people don't necessarily fear the change, they just fear being left out of it within that part of it. And when you have that emotion tied to it, it definitely makes it a little bit tougher as a community. But in our gym, we have two banners, one from each school, that has all the state, region, district championships from everything. We put Hall of Fame and a records display board. It's a Rocket Solutions, which you can, interactive display board out in our foyer, where you can look at the different Hall of Fame and records and different things from each school as well. So we really tried to honor the past as we move forward with the future with our things that we did. And I think that really paid dividends, because little things like a trophy from 1985 that somebody really has stake in means something to somebody, and it's important to honor those things. And I think that really helped us.
Back to the community involvement in terms of planning that year zero. You also talked about creating a feedback form. So what were some of the things you created both for students and parents?
Well, we did, we brought in the advisory groups to do that and just kind of talk. It's kind of simple, some updates, but what are you excited about? What are you concerned about? But then we also did some surveys to the larger group for families and kids, just to get as much information
Mhm.
beforehand with, what are some things we're excited about with the school consolidation? What are concerns? We also asked some questions about attendance, just to try to see. We knew chronic absenteeism before. After COVID, it's been a national struggle with absenteeism. So we tried to work a little bit on that and seeing what some of those hurdles were before we started that, to try to put some things in place to just value people, value kids, value relationships, and that's kind of been our focus on that. And trying to reach out and get that information on the forefront, I think definitely helped.
So in terms of the cultures being merged, what are some positive things that maybe has changed that might have been struggles prior to the consolidation?
Yeah, I think day one, you always as you walk in the door, there's so much unknown. You don't know what's going to happen when you bring those two rivals together. You don't know if you're going to have all kinds of conflicts and
Hmm.
issues. Our kids knocked it out of the park. I think some of the things that we did with like the summer events and activities, our sports teams that got together and built relationships, and when the football, band, cross country, and volleyball teams started off well in the summer. I think that created momentum as we walked in the door with those teams and being teammates and that just really, really kicked off. Our we started year one and tried to have multiple members of the school leadership team, one from each school. So, like if somebody was a president at Covington, we kept him in that role for one more year, and now it's all just all together, and it kind of very surprising. You get to the end of the year and just how well our kids and our teachers did, and just knocked it out of the park across the board with academics, behavior, and the things. And we were a little more proactive with people and being visible for sure as a staff year one, and just making sure that we were out there and being visible throughout the day. But Jeff's definitely proud of everybody and what they did, because the kids didn't ask for that, and they had to be adaptable and encourage to come into a new setting. I mean, a senior that's starting their senior year, coming to a new school is almost like being a freshman again for the end of it. So, we as you sit back, you realize that they adapted quickly, and they were super courageous with what they did, and definitely value that.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, let's change gears a little bit. So you have received the honor of being the Virginia High School Principal of the Year with NASSP. Talk to me a little bit about the process, if you self-nominated or you were nominated, kind of when you find out versus when the public finds out, and what is the journey of being the Principal of the Year for the state.
Gotcha. Well, kind of in the middle of the ride, I guess, at this
Uh-huh.
point. So in the fall, my assistant principals nominated me
Hmm.
in the fall. So I guess you really don't know that, and then you get an email that you've been nominated, and there's a process. There's some questions. You have to get some surveys and some questions answered by
Hmm.
a family, a community member, a parent, a staff member, a student, and different people throughout your school community that answer some questions. Then there's an interview process with principals, superintendents, board members, and things as well. And then you kind of go into the waiting game of who gets selected. And then once you're selected, for a while, and it's a long time till everybody else knows. I think
Hmm.
I knew right before Thanksgiving, and it gets announced to the public late January. So
Hmm.
multiple months of kind of just sitting on that part of it, and then the fun begins with the opportunities and things that come with that. We
Hmm.
just got back from Washington, D.C. at the NASSP leadership gala and awards and activities part. And it was awesome just to meet the super leaders across the country and just get inspired by their stories and the things that they do. But you also realize that, we're all a little bit similar as well with what you're going through and the things. And it's neat to hear the ideas that folks from California, Alaska, Nebraska have,
Hmm.
and those. So that was super super humbling and definitely rewarding to do that. I did have the opportunity to go to the Board of Education, Department of Education, and get
Hmm.
recognized there with that part. And I think here this summer, VASSP has a conference that I'll also get recognized at and get to present at on some of the things that have helped with the book and the consolidation and that journey and some of the AI stuff that we're doing.
So, you will be speaking then at some different conferences. Talk to me about some of the PD that you also have planned, maybe over the summer. You talked about some work with in Nashville. and some other things that you have on the docket.
Yeah, we were presenting at VASSP, and then in July going to making schools work and have a
Mhm.
presentation on school culture, but also like AI, valuing people over paperwork, how some of the AI can give you time back from data and different things there that you can help within the admin part of that as well. And we've also had the luxury to present at Innovative Schools in March. That was great to go down and present at that conference, and they do a great job and bring a lot of really impactful speakers from the Joe Sanfilippo's, Kim Strobel, Hamish Brewer. So that was awesome to
Mhm.
be at that conference as well. Hopefully, with the book part of it, if there's any leadership teams that are wanting to do a book study, definitely willing to help and support anyway in that within that part. And it just as you go through that process, it talks a lot about the change and just taking a moment and pausing and answering some questions from the chapters, that can help you throughout that process, but
Mhm.
also some things that just uplift your school community. So the hope with the book part is it's kind of a playbook, but also tells the story of the consolidation as well. So definitely enjoy getting our team out and talking at conferences. Usually either any of our APs that are available. We go as a group if we can. So that's been a lot of fun to get out there as a team and share the things that we're doing. So we're always looking for opportunities to speak and talk about our story.
Have you been approached by many other principals who have a consolidation that's planned? And do you feel like this is a valuable, like your story, even if their school's a lot larger or, whatever situation, this would be something you could help guide them through?
It's interesting having
Hmm.
conversations with people around the country how much consolidation
Yeah,
is happening. And
yeah.
it might not be divisions, but definitely schools. Four schools going to two, and
Hmm.
in this, I know some in the Northeast are having to be required to do some things. In Kansas, I know there's some schools that are working on that as well. So I think it is something that's going to become more of a thing as we move forward for sure.
Hmm.
And definitely the book helps. Doesn't matter what your situation is. It's people, communication, the
Yeah,
little things, the
yeah.
little things that matter for sure, and being intentional with the communication up front and the relationships pays dividends. I know everybody thinks logistical is what you got to think about for
Hmm.
sure, and it's super important. But if you don't bring people and kids into that process and put them first, it can be a struggle. So I think that's a key takeaway with that.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, we've had a great conversation today around your book, around the story of the consolidation of the two high schools and your journey now as a Virginia Secondary School Principal of the Year. Out of everything we've talked about, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
I think when you value people and put relationships first, good things happen. And
Hmm.
I think there's some research out there that companies and schools that do that are much more successful in the long run. If
Hmm.
you're worried about results only, people leave, people
Yeah.
go with that part of it. So definitely, find time. The little conversations, the little things that you do matter, and little things create momentum. So definitely people first. And I
Hmm.
think when you do that, you can't go wrong.
Hmm. Well, where can people find you online?
I'm on LinkedIn for sure. So you can find me with my searching my name, Derek Cantrell, there. Also on Twitter, don't or X, so don't use that as much, but definitely LinkedIn. And if anybody wanted to reach out by email, it's derek.cantrell at ahps.k12.va.us. All that good stuff that comes with the school email with that part. But
Hmm.
definitely, if there's any questions or someone needs something, we're here to help. I have resources from our
Hmm.
conference and hand out stuff there. So if someone's interested in that, just reach out to me and I'll share that.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much for being my guest on the Out of the Trenches podcast. And I hope people who are maybe being notified about having to merge in a couple of years will hear your story and be able to reach out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.